All right, welcome back to the Kansas City Star podcast. I'm Sam McDowell, sports reporter with the Star, joined once again this week by Ike Opara, sporting Kansas City defender. Ike, thanks again for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. I'm enjoying this.
We're going to get into an interesting topic this week and talk a little bit about what got you here as far as the sports that you played growing up, because a hot topic right now is just specialization in sports, specifically among kids and younger kids. So let's get into your background a little bit. Tell us what sports you played growing up and just when you started to focus on soccer specifically.
Yeah, for me, it was, I started playing soccer at age 4. And then as I got a little bit older, I incorporated, team sports such as basketball and baseball. I think basketball was probably, 9 or 10 years old, and baseball was probably, from Pee Wee level up, or T-ball level, which is probably about 6 or 7 years old. And then I kept going. I'll stick to this baseball point, but I stayed with baseball from, about that age all the way until about the end of my 8th grade year. And with basketball, I played probably, 8 or 9 years old, and played all the way to my, give or take senior year of high school. I had some, unfortunate injuries in high school, but so it kind of made me miss out basketball season, I think my junior year. But I was still with the team and still active and trying to do things with them. And really, I kind of transitioned to soccer full time. Really, when I started getting, our recruiting letters.
Sure.
And so I'd always kind of know that, if I was going to go the soccer route or the sport route, soccer would have been my main focus. And when you start getting letters, probably sophomore year of high school or so, you start to realize, okay, well, this is, a lot of, start putting my eggs in that basket more so than all the other sports. And so it was pretty easy for me to figure out, that I wanted to do soccer and stick with soccer. But I learned a lot of, I guess skills just that crossed over amongst all three sports. And that was something that, to this day that I still, more so with basketball, I think there was a lot of similarities with the movements and being a defender in soccer. I think there was a lot very helpful for me. And it's always kind of still been in the back of my mind. That's kind of when I started to really specialize in soccer, was at the end of high school, give or take.
So, and this isn't necessarily why we're here to talk, but I'm interested if you were any good at these other sports.
So, baseball, I realized that baseball wasn't probably for me anymore.
What position did you play?
So, by that time, I was playing AU, and I was playing 2 years up. And so I was kind of all over the place at that point. Most of the time, it was shortstop in 1 year, and then the next year I experimented with catcher. That was pretty fun.
Okay.
It allowed you to be involved every single pitch of the game, really. And so, I was pretty decent at baseball until I think I started focusing on the other two sports more. In baseball, I kind of got left behind a bit. And then you get that 9 to 5 or 6 or whatever it's called, breaking curveball that starts at your head and ends at and it ends at your knees, and then you're like, oh well, I was ducking out of the way. I think I was going to hit me in the head, and next thing I know, it's a strike 3. So I realized that baseball probably wasn't for me. And at that point in time, I was basketball and soccer are more obviously faster paced, and that was kind of what I was leaning towards. I think baseball is a lot more analytical thinking, and it's actually one of the more fun sports to play. But at that point in time, it was I think soccer and basketball were to my personality, and basketball was pretty decent as well. I had a couple.
What did you play in basketball?
I was point guard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I prided myself on defending. Actually, I was trying to be the lockdown defender and passing. That was where at the end of the day, what I could, I judged myself on was how did I do with my, my matchup. Did I get any steals? Did I get a possible block, or how many assists?
It's like an omen for your being a defender.
I know, right? I know. And I never really cared about scoring. I really was all about trying to set my team up to be successful at that position, and that's why I kind of leaned towards the pass first guards, even in today's basketball. Your Rondos.
Yeah.
Even though he might seek more assist than really shot taking ability and Chris Paul's. But that was kind of my MO.
Can you dunk?
Oh yeah, no, not an issue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one of the questions I get all the time, and it's not an issue. Like,
when do you remember when you very first dunked a basketball?
Yeah, I think everyone remembers their first dunk, or at least remembers.
I don't.
Yeah. If you've
waiting.
dunked, there's a trampoline out there, I'm sure. It was 8th grade. I just think that it was. I remember. I mean, at that point, I think it was one out of every 5 I could get. And then I started getting them pretty regularly when I was in 9th grade and in 10th and on.
You doing it during a game?
Yeah, I threw a couple down. I posterized a couple guys, and smaller guys though. Yeah. So I never, with the big centers, it's different ball game.
I've always said of the one skill set there's always sort of, my friends and I have these sorts of debates. Man, if you could have one skill in a game that you could just experience what that felt like, and dunking is if it's not first, it's second or third on that list.
Yeah, it's up there. It's a good feeling, especially if you're able to get someone underneath the rim, or you can see them, they're trying to line you up, and you're trying to line them up as well. Yeah. I would even say that crossed over into soccer. Just based off of set pieces, yes, I can jump high, but the timing of when to jump, and if I'm jumping off of my left or my right foot or both feet, was just something that, especially when I was active in basketball all the time, it was almost so routine that I never thought about it. And today, I don't really think about it much, but there are times where I'm like, I probably need to go on my right foot or my left foot or both feet for this instance. And just the timing of how to set up, when you leap, when the ball's in the air. And I think most people that defend me know that I can jump. And so what they try to do is, body me or do something to throw me off. And so I have to try to adjust depending on what the defender or whoever is marking me is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and so much that's a good transition here, but so much of what people think about winning aerial duels in soccer, they credit height and athleticism, but it's so much more than that, and it's about the timing, and that certainly is a skill that you use a lot in those other sports you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think some of the better leapers that I've faced. Yes, there's some like your Ike Opara's you can get up there, but then you had guys that I remember playing Zach Scott, not an overly tall guy, 5'10" maybe or so, but his timing was impeccable. He was really good at timing and using his body when he was in the air, and I mean that was his ability that kind of counteracted the maybe the vert that he may have lacked, but at the same time he just maybe he did have. I'm not sure, to be honest. I just remember his timing being exceptional. And I think as I'm playing, I try to find spaces. Sometimes it's, I don't have enough room to pull off some of the jumps that I would like on the set piece. And so you have to really go, kind of improv from there. But I think when I'm able to really, line it up and see a spot on the field, it's been, I think that's when I'm really successful.
So after sort of recapping the sports you did play, if you could go back and change, because obviously the big thing now is these kids are specializing in an earlier age. Do you have any regrets about any of that?
No, I personally don't, just because of my personality. I knew that I wanted to expand, and my parents were great support staff for me just because they let me experience many things, and they didn't, they were excited for me to, try my hand in whether it be sports or, arts. I wish I would have done there's so many other things I wish I would have done, and they would have been completely behind me 100%. But I think all of those things, those new experiences were reasons why I was able to excel when I decided to stick with soccer, just because I think I was able to learn. I mean, in all three sports, it's teamwork, sure, but it's just different sort of teamwork.
Sure.
Whereas basketball, you got a little more individualism, and you really got to play both sides more so than in soccer. You kind of just depending on your position, you do more one than the other typically, unless you're in the midfield. Sure. I mean, we can get in specifics, but and then in baseball, you got your position, and then you're for the most part you're there, and you're not really moving much. It's pretty static, I guess, in that regards, and. A pitcher is able to dictate, a lot of the game, and the catcher as well. And until you get up the bat, that's when you can really make impacts. And I know defense is important in baseball, but it's just different. You're not really. I mean, if it's in right field and you're the third baseman, you have no responsibility with that pop fly kind of thing, unless there are runners on. So it's just different sort of teamwork. But you're able to meet different dynamics, different personalities, and figure out kind of, where your role is in all three, and you start to figure out yourself, I think, when you're experiencing multiple sports.
Yeah. And there's been studies, and a lot of them on specialization recently, probably within the last decade or so. But, the biggest sort of side effects about specializing early seem to be, injury, overuse injury, especially when you're talking about baseball. I mean, you've got pitchers and whatnot. But, when you're only using some movements in your body and your body's constantly repeating that and maybe not using other muscles, just when you don't even realize it, depending on sports, that can cause overuse injury. But also burnout, is a major thing when you've got kids that are playing sports year round. And I wondered if, your experience, if being able to transition from soccer and, the summer or the fall or whatever, and going to basketball in the winter, I'm sure that maybe made you a little bit more eager and ready when soccer did come around the next year.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the things I never thought about until I got older and realized how. Because
it's every day out here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I think I realized a little bit before I became a pro, but just how, lucky that I was to do multiple sports. Because then I was thinking or talking to one of my ex-club teammates that was actually the best man at his wedding, and we're looking around, and he has 4 or 5 guys from the groomsmen who were in that club team growing up, and other guys who attended the wedding, and so we all stay in touch. But we were all talking about what happened to so and so, the people we kind of lost touch with, and it was funny because most of them, I would say if there was 5, I would say 3 or 4 of them gave up early because of the burnout, gave up early because of maybe outside influences, just being more passionate than they were at the sport, and they just I think others wanted it more for them than they did, and so they didn't enjoy it, and so they kind of just said, all right, I'm done. I mean, some are financial, I'm sure, reasons. Playing in a lot of sports can be expensive for families, or lack of playing time when you're traveling a lot. Like for club soccer, you want to play, and if you're traveling all across the country not playing much, I understand that's one of the things that you're in high school. You want to experience some things that you want to, whatever it be, student government, whatever the case. But you're missing out on a lot of things, and so if you want to experience it, then soccer maybe it's not the route or your calling, and so. It was kind of just the burnout that a lot of people had, that they felt like soccer was overly, was dictating their lives too much to the point where they couldn't live and enjoy, other things in it. And so, which is, in retrospect, at the time I didn't understand it. I think I was confused. I was like, well, everyone should play. Like, I just didn't understand the concept of burnout, really.
Sure.
And then as I got older, it was like, oh, that's so easy to identify with and understand why they felt that way.
And it seems like, one of the other things is when you put a kid to only, when you enroll a kid only in one sport and sort of, because, these stats here show from this study that the mean age now or the average age of kids that are starting to single sport specialize is 12 and a half years old, basically. And that decision, you would think maybe the kid has some say, but there has to be a lot of situations where a 12 and a half year old is maybe not making those decisions, and whether it be a parent or a coach. But I just wonder about the pressure that you and I talked a lot last week about, just sports psychology and the mental aspect of the game. And man, you put that sort of pressure on a kid who's 12 and a half years old, that seems to be a concern.
Yeah. I don't have statistics back in this, but I'm going to say but I think I would venture to say a majority of 12 and a half year olds have no idea what they want to do in life. Right. And so, let alone, sports. If I was to be a parent, I would want my kid to, experience, sports, arts, whatever, book club, music, a lot of things, just because I think that you can learn so much just based on different circles, and it may benefit you in some aspects, it may not. But I also understand that, if you use soccer, for example, you join academies at whatever age, 10, 11, 12, 13, it's really young. And so when you join an academy, you've kind of committed to saying, okay, I'm going to
pursue this.
Yes. Yeah. And so you don't have time to play other sports. You don't have probably even time to do things, like I said, as music or art or student government. You're probably really just, doing schoolwork and soccer. And so it really kind of limits you into this, it pigeonholes you a bit into this, a little bit of a corner here of, if you don't love it or you don't want it anymore, you've kind of lost, X amount of years.
That's a bigger decision to all of a sudden quit as opposed to, if it's one of 3 or 4 that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, and I get that until you are in that position, you just never know. But in my perfect world is, I would, let my child experience whatever it is that they wanted to experience. And then when they say, get to an age where they're like, they want to, let's say, focus on soccer or basketball. Okay, I'll say, all right, I'll rock with you here now. So I'll do everything that I can to help you be successful. So if you want to be the one to go to camps or if you want to be the one to get extra coaching, you can do it. But I will never be more passionate than, my child if, I just think that you're not really – I just think that it would allow them room to, for error, room to, figure out what they want to do as opposed to me being down their throat with it. And so I think that's what I would do. I mean, it's not the right way. It's not the wrong way. It's just, what I would prefer. And I think my parents did a good job of allowing me to decide whatever it is that I wanted to do. Yeah. And really, I think that's a big reason as to why I'm here.
Hey, it's Blair Kirchhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass, unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass.
Some of these stats are really interesting, what you just said, because the majority of athletes, professional athletes, and obviously we're talking with one here, but the majority of them did not specialize until 15 years old. But the majority of high schoolers now are 12 and a half, and college age kids, the people on scholarships, are 13 and a half years old. So it's like it's a greater tendency to specialize at a young age, even though the stats show that that's not the way people got here. And right. You're saying that that's not the way you got here. And another interesting stat that I found here was only 22.3% of professional athletes said they would want their own child to specialize. So the people that have made it have said that's still not the preferred route to go. Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of now we only have the numbers to back it up. We don't have necessarily the qualitative data, but I would be interested to hear all the reasons as to why athletes feel that way. I bet it could be. I bet it's complex. I bet there are hundreds of reasons why, but I think one of the bigger ones would be, I think it's to let a kid, live a little bit. I think kids got to make their own mistakes because kids got to figure out things on their own. And I also think that, it could be many things. And I know it's probably different in this country based on, if you ask any of my foreign teammates that question. Yeah. But it's always, I'm sure we could ask 100 different athletes and get, upwards of 100 different answers to that reason as to why. And I'd be interested to know why. But
do you, just because we're having this conversation, but have you ever thought about how it might be different if you had focused earlier? Do you think anything would be different at all?
The only thing that would be different would be, if I was to make it and not have felt a burnout or, maybe something else, something happened, would be maybe you would have, better technique in whatever area. The more reps you get, the better you are typically. Right. And so,
which is definitely the thinking behind doing it.
Right. Once you're able to specialize, I would imagine you give everything you can. You literally are, practicing quite a bit, and you're working on things that, people that in theory should be left behind with who aren't practicing. And so I don't know. I think that there's some truth to that for sure. But at the same time, the mentality of a 12 and a half year old, if you're committing to specialization is, That's a tricky one. I mean, that's seventh grade, eighth. No, not even eighth grade. So seventh grade. Yeah. I mean, when I was in seventh grade, I couldn't tell you what I was trying to do. I really couldn't. So, and I think a lot of people would say that as well.
It's not that, you definitely want your kids to think that it is possible to maybe go pro. And I mean, obviously you wanted to grow up thinking that it was a possibility, but it seems like when, you spend all your efforts making that happen, that's where, it's got to work.
Yeah.
And that adds a different layer to it.
Yeah. And you see guys who dedicate themselves to it and they make it. I mean, they could go any way.
A lot of the academy kids, heck, even with this program, have done that.
Right.
I mean, you've got a couple teammates now that played soccer their entire lives, and sure enough, by 15, 16, they're signing professional contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, there's no right way. I mean, really, it's just what you prefer. I guess as a parent or someone who's helping kids make a decision. But I think a lot of people wouldn't. Even the young guys we've signed, I would love to hear their answer on this in 10 years or 15 years.
Sure.
Because it could be very interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to hear it, to be honest. And so I don't know where it's going to go. You mentioned that a lot of the guys kind of my age and above didn't specialize until about 16 or so, and now they're doing it at 12 and a half. So I'm curious to see where now the shift and the answers that will come from the recent shift and what they will be, because I think it's going to be pretty fascinating one way or another, and just hearing stories as to people who did specialize.
Now, this would never be a factor that would swing you one way or the other, but I'm just saying I would not want to play a pickup game of whatever with my buddies. Like, heck, if you guys ever play pickup games and not know what I'm doing out there on the basketball court. Do you guys ever have pickup games among the team or anything?
There are some.
You can probably tell who's played basketball.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got the people who talk. Like, I try not to use names without permission or consent, because then you start bringing people into arguments or discussions that maybe you don't have the permission to do. But on this instance, I will bring a name in just because it's a fun topic. Jalen Lindsay is an awful basketball player. The first time I ever saw him shoot a ball, he shot it over the backboard, and he swears that he was just messing around. And I've seen him shoot if he takes 10 shots, his form is different every shot. And so he runs his mouth, and he keeps running his mouth. And so you get guys like him who cannot ball.
See, I said this would not be a factor, but now you're convincing me that would be a factor and why you shouldn't specialize in sports.
Yeah, I guess because Jalen has probably never shot a basketball. Honestly, he's kind of like watching one of the foreigners play. They're always, I don't know what they're doing, and it's awesome to watch.
Well, they probably don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not. No, we had to teach someone how to even hold a football and how to throw it.
Okay.
That was a fun one. And we it's always fun watching them shoot hoops, just because you just have no idea what kind of funky form you're going to see.
So who's actually, because these people wouldn't mind having their names brought up. Who's actually like a really good basketball player on the team?
So in terms of
if you played one-on-one, who would you not want to see in the bracket?
I'll say, in no order, top 5 is probably somewhere in there. Bees, Seth.
Guys that played in high school.
Yeah.
Beasler played.
Yeah,
He
Seth
wanted to
did.
play all the way through, but his coach made him quit.
Right. Yep. And Seth, I think, myself. And then it actually gets tricky because we've lost some talent over the last few years. We were actually trying to figure out who would be our
a good player, right?
He had some height, he had some work, but Kyrie's actually would be decent. And then the 5th guy we were trying to come up with, I think our athletic staff is probably better than
Really?
the 5th. Oh yeah, we got a couple guys on the athletic staff who are decent, who can. But the thing is, when we just mess around and shoot, they're really good just standstill shooters. But in terms of actually playing basketball,
you and Beasler seem like maybe you would have the most sort of well-rounded games, like the guys that would D up and take it super seriously.
Yeah. And Seth would drive me insane because
really? Why? What's his game like?
He boxes out at the 3-point line.
Fundamentally sound.
And it's like, dude, stop! It's pickup basketball. I'm standing at the 3-point line, and you're boxing me out. Like, really? Drives me insane. So, and he's just trying to do it and get under my skin. I'm like, stop touching me. I'm at the 3-point line. So yeah, I would say those are the us three for sure have to be forming a team, and then tryouts for the other two. To be honest,
the one thing about a soccer team though is, I mean, heck, you're one of the very tallest guys on this team. There's really no forwards on it.
I know. And we would struggle with rebounds. But then again, we're fundamentally sound, so
boxing out.
I'm going more athleticism. I'm not boxing out. Boxing out is just. It's fine. It's just funny that Seth loves it.
Yeah. You actually described the way I play. His game is kind of the way I play pickup. I try and play almost every week. And that's kind of the way I play too, though. I got to box out.
Well, if I ever see you or him in the double elbow pads and knee pads,
it's going to be Seth in a game or something like that.
We can bring you out here. We can try to record it then. It'll be interesting. I've got wagers on. The athletic staff. One of our athletic trainers, Kurt Andrews, is a big talker, and he thinks he's I don't know. He thinks he's the next coming of, I don't know, some rags to rich story. So we'll see. I mean, he has no idea what he's going to be in for.
So can Seth shoot it pretty well? I mean, who on the team can shoot?
He can. Yeah, Seth and Beast can really shoot it, and
Beasler can dunk too.
You know what? I don't know. That'd be interesting. I've never actually, seen him try it because we're always in there just like kind of messing around, and I mean, we take it serious, sure. But when we would play, but I've never seen anyone really, because I don't really try to dunk. I just get to the hole and lay it in or something.
Yeah, I had an argument with a couple buddies one time talking about which players on your guys' team might be able to dunk, and you came up, and then I mentioned Beasler. Just because I feel like he's more athletic than people give him credit for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it was funny because I was the only one in this conversation that said yes, Matt Beasler can dunk. And so I actually contacted him about it. I was like, hey man, next time you're at the gym, if you could take a video of yourself dunking, it would win me an argument.
Right.
And sure enough, he did. He was
he did?
Oh yeah, he was able to throw it down.
So
he was able to throw it down.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did or didn't. That's why I was like, I honestly don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be better if one of you guys did it in like an actual pickup game.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is when you do that, you're risking coming down on some ankles or something. So it's like
you guys have to be careful about the way you play competitive sports outside of.
Right.
But still, it seems like it would be tough to turn off just like
and that's always going to be flowing. I mean, if it's game point and it's close, it's always turns to the serious point.
Sure.
The first half of the game is kind of like all right, and then the second half turns into legitimate sweating and again boxing out Seth.
Yeah. Well, some other future podcasts, maybe we'll have to go through and rank the way you guys would do in other sports. But let's stop there for this week. Thanks again, Ike, for joining us this week. And thanks a lot, guys, for listening. Appreciate it.